of a Jesus girl. Jesus girl. Hey, it's the diary of a Jesus girl. Let the wings of the Spirit of the Lord just swirl. You are in it, but you know you're not a part of this world. If for the swine, you should never cast your pearl. Yes, it's just the diary of a Jesus girl. The diary of a Jesus girl. Welcome to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast, where we discuss real life issues of the committed Christian woman. This podcast will inspire you to love Jesus and impact lives like Jesus. And now it's time for your host, Crystal Day, award-winning author, speaker, and Christian coach.
Welcome to another episode of the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. Listen, I'm excited about this week's conversation with a woman of God that I've been admiring from afar. Listen, when I tell you that you don't know who is watching you and who is being blessed by your story, like we really don't know, right? Not because somebody is not all up in your DMs or, always commenting or whatever, it doesn't mean that your impact is not going out there. And I want her to know that her impact, I've been watching her for years, silently watching her. I've done, her course, her marketing course. I think it was earlier this year, I believe, one of her marketing Google courses. And then I saw her putting up a retreat. I'm like, I want to go, but in due time. So, here in Jamaica, she's having that impact. So, I just want to welcome Dr. Shamieka Dean to the podcast. Welcome, Dr. Dean.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited about, being here, and I was grateful to be able to just share my story. So I don't take it lightly. I'm truly honored and grateful.
Yes, listen, one thing about Shamieka's post on Facebook, you're going to get some drips, you're going to get some conviction, you're going to probably feel a little bad sometimes because she's talking about you, but no, that, it is in love, and, there's nothing comfortable about growth. So I love that about her, just, always authentically just sharing, to challenge persons to grow. So, Dr. D, normally on the podcast, we start one question everybody gets is your conversion story. Tell us a little bit about, what was life like growing up, what was life like before Christ, and lead us through your transition story.
Wow, that's a loaded one. What was my life like before Christ? Oh, it was a ratchet mess. It was ratchet and raggedy. I was I was a mom by the age of 15. So I was pregnant at 14 and gave birth to my first child at the age of 15. I came from a single family home. My mother raised me. She did remarry, but I did not have a relationship with my father. My father lived 2 minutes driving distance from me, had another wife, kids, a whole family, and literally never came to see me. So, that was very challenging. I've survived a lot of things. I survived rape. I was raped twice by the age of 10 years old. And I was also in a very seriously abusive relationship at the ages of 14 and 15. So I've had a lot of pain in my adolescence, but, his word is true. All things work together for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And so although he didn't inflict the pain upon me or, cause it to happen, he allowed what happened to become the thing that catapulted me, into my destiny, which is why, I share the passion I share about motherhood, relationships, women being healed and whole, and all of those things. So that is my life pre-Christ. And yeah.
But so at what point though did you come into a relationship with Jesus Christ?
So I don't want to say I wasn't raised in church, but I wasn't raised in church consistently, right? So we would go to church when there was a funeral, holidays, and when things got hard. Like that was my upbringing in as a child. But one thing I always vividly remember was my mama praying. She was a praying woman. And so whenever things got hard, she would always say, pray about it, God will work it out. And I always had this longing to know who this God was that my mom talked about. You know, why is he the one I needed to pray to? And I will never forget, my journey with Christ began at 10 when I got raped the second time. I remember praying, asking God to help me to make enough money so that I can be at home with my kids at night. And I was 10, didn't know anything about pregnancy, motherhood, or anything, but that came from my mom having to work 2 to 3 jobs to take care of us. And so because of that, she had to leave us in the hands of someone she trusted to, you know, look after us while she was at work. But that person ended up raping me. And so I prayed that prayer at a young age, not even understanding what I was praying for or anything about sex or anything like that. And as I grew older, I can remember probably around 10 or 11, I started having visions, and I started seeing when people would die. I would see, I would hear conversations. I would say something and someone would come and say it after that. So the gift of prophecy was already there, right? You're born a prophet. That's the only office that you're born into. And so I would have these dreams and I would have visions and I would hear God speaking, but didn't know who he was. So as I grew older, the desire to know more about, again, this God that I was speaking to, and to also know that I wasn't crazy, because let's be honest, if you start telling people you seeing death and hearing conversations, the first thing they think is that something is mentally wrong, you're crazy. And because there was a stigma around mental health in my family, I did not want to identify with that. So I kept those things hidden. However, when I was around probably, I think I was out of college. I was out of high school, I know, but maybe 19 or 20. I'd attended a church. I was going through a very hard time in my life, and I had attended this church service of a friend of mine, her parents. And the apostle called me up to the front and he prophesied to me. And he told me that God was going to use me to save millions of lives. He said that I would have international impact and I would impact the lives of millions of women all over the world. Now, mind you, I was like, this dude is lying. He's crazy because I wasn't knee deep in sin at the time. I was neck deep in sin. So clearly God wasn't about to use me. Right. And so but what he said stuck with me. When it is a true word from God, you cannot just toss it aside. Like, it sticks with you over the years. And so I finally surrendered and gave my life to God in 2010. And I got licensed in 2011, and pretty much the rest is history.
Yes, listen. And I'm kind of glad, because I was supposed to read the bio first, but I'm glad that you tell us the story, because even after all of that, Dr. Shamieka Dean is an award-winning business owner. She's a #1 profit strategist to businesses offering customized profit strategy, specializing in business automation and optimization with the integration of social media, email marketing, live videos, etc. Right? In the last few years, she has coached over 3,000 students through courses using, she has an impactful YouTube channel with, that grew over 30,000 subscribers in six months, even without using ads, right? So she's an author, speaker, coach, and just doing amazing things. And I'm glad that she shared the testimony before, because sometimes we hear people elevation and we don't realize that it's all a process. And one of the things she has always spoken about is that healing and that process. So talk to us, Dr. Dean, from this young lady that would have gone through so many levels of brokenness, from rape, teenage pregnancy, just being rejected, to now, being just the woman that is showing up for other women in the space, not just seeing empowerment, but truly, personifying what empowering women really look like. Tell us about that journey.
So the journey, one of the things that I tell all of my clients, and I teach the the people that I pour to on a daily basis is that belief systems become birthing systems. And there were plenty of broken belief systems that I had about myself that continued this birthing of things that I didn't desire to have in my life, right? And so there was a stigma, of course, attached to me. I was pregnant at 14 and, mom by 15. And so statistically, I should still be on welfare. I shouldn't be married. I should be somewhere struggling with my head down, crying, And so, but it started with the belief systems. I had to believe differently, first of all, about who God said I was, or who he says I am, and what he says I can do, regardless of the cards that have been dealt to me in this life. And so the other part of that belief system was the power of perception. And so perception is pulled from the posture of your heart. So what that means is that when things happen in our lives, how we perceive it is determining what is going to be, is going to determine whether we stay in a position of pity or operate in a position of prosperity, right? And so I chose to use the power of perspective, which means that instead of me looking at what happened as in it happened to me, I changed the perception to what is it doing in me, through me, and for me, right? So because of that, all of the statistics, the labels, the limitations that would have ordinarily been able to keep me stuck and stagnant, because I changed my perception, I continue to prosper no matter what has happened in my life. So that is, a part of that journey. And then also understanding that it takes us so much longer to get where we are when we try to do things by ourselves. So my journey also meant I needed to invest in myself. And that's financially, that's spiritually, that's emotionally, that's mentally. So I believe in investing in mentors to help me through every journey, every part of my life. So even now at this state of my life and my business, I have a business coach. I definitely believe wholeheartedly in therapy. I have a speaking coach. I have someone that's helping me with branding. I have my friendship circle that keeps me accountable. So, that's a part of that journey, just knowing that this is what it's going to take to get from here to, get there.
Powerful. And, want persons to, because one of the things that, you're saying, again, just cementing the identity in Christ, just, I remember a post from you that talk about, the things that don't disqualify God from you answering God's call, your past experiences, the opinions of people. These are some of the things that, definitely when God is calling you, he doesn't look at those things. But then even when he calls you, there's a work that you need to do in yourself for you to feel worthy of that calling, or you're going to walk around with this orphan mentality, and that's not what God wants for you. So I really appreciate, that reminder of the renewing of our minds. Now, you mentioned just being a wife, like, based on your statistics, you being a wife now, you have written a book. I love the title, when you said position yourself to be a wife, the ultimate guide to your first and only marriage. Now, somebody might not know your story, might not know, that you actually were married to your husband, then you guys divorced and then remarried. Now, talk to us about that wife journey and, how does that happen? How did that happen?
Yeah, so my husband and I, we had been married for 7 years and then we divorced. We've been separated a year and a half. No, it was a year. We've been separated for a year and then we were officially divorced for 5 to 6 months. I think it was like 5 or 6 months. And so, that journey was very, very, very revelatory. Because when we divorced, I had no intentions on remarrying him. That was out of the question. I never prayed for God to restore my marriage. My prayer was, God, help me to heal so that I won't ever have to go through this pain again. Because I wanted the next marriage, because your girl knew she was going to get another husband. Like, I was like, I'm going to get married again. That's for sure. And so, but I did not want to attract the same type of relationship, the same type of, man into my life. And I knew that in order for me to not attract or repeat the cycle, that I needed to become a different woman. And so my journey, this book is actually the journey that God took me through to restore my marriage, is what I try to get people to understand. So everything in the book is a 3-step process, and it's purge, prepare, and then position. And so I had to be purged from the wrong belief systems that caused some of the problems in my marriage. And although I tell people I don't take responsibility for anything or any failures or anything that my husband did, because he had his own failures, I take full responsibility for my own, because I can only do the work that's going to change the results in my life. And so regardless of what he did or whatever, I was still responsible for the transformation that I wanted to see. And so that purging again meant that I had to go through some broken belief systems around even the definition of what I thought a wife was. Because what I realized is that I was just a single married woman. I wasn't a wife. And so when I say single married woman, that means I had his name, but nothing about me changed. I did not know how to become one. I did not understand how I was supposed to be successful in my role as a wife or any of those things. And so there were some things that I was taught, when I was younger, that were not biblical. They did not align with how God designed and orchestrated marriage. So I had to be purged from those things. And then I had to prepare. If I really wanted to get married again, I needed to prepare for it, right? What are the things that I needed to do to prepare? I needed to make sure that I understood what my role was. I needed to, do the work and begin acting like a wife and not like a single woman, because that is not, because it said he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. So I needed to become a wife before I ever took on someone's name. And a part of that preparation was, at first I had to be purged, but then I had to be prepared. So that means I had to go through the healing process, right? I had to forgive. I had to understand who I was. I needed to know my purpose so that my marriage would not become an idol and my husband would not be, how I found my identity outside of Christ. And then the last thing was position. I needed to take my position as a wife. Boom. I am a wife, right? I'm not waiting to become one. Your name doesn't make me a wife. I'm already here. But again, that aligned with me understanding, what all that looked like. And that was the process. And so how we ended up getting back together was he came over. I had a car accident and I injured my spine and I wasn't able to move. Like I could barely move. I could barely walk. So it was his time to come to get the children for the weekend. And he came over. They asked where I was. The kids told him that I was in the bed because my back was hurting. So he came upstairs to check on me because I didn't tell him about the accident or anything, but he came up to check on me. And I was like on my knees crawling to the bathroom floor. And so he came in and he was, assisting me, and me being angry and bitter at that time. I was like, I don't need your help. Move. I got it. But the reality is I did need help. And so he said, let me take care of you until you can get back to where you need to be with the kids. He said, because regardless, you're still, my kid's mother, and they need you healthy. They need you, whole. And so we had a bonus room in our house at the time. So the agreement was that he could stay there, assist me, and he just would have to sleep, in the bonus room, because I was like, you ain't getting no bedroom, boom, because you're not my beau anymore. Like, you're not my husband. So I put him in the back in the bonus room, and he did. He stayed and he nursed me back to health. And so once I was, he could clean, did everything, so I didn't have to do anything during that time. And so one day he asked if we could just go hang out as friends. He was like, let's just go hang out, as friends. And so, no, I'm sorry. My son said, as he was walking down the stairs, my baby boy said, Daddy, isn't mommy so beautiful? And then so my husband, ex-husband, he's ex-husband at the time, he said, yes, she sure is. And he said, well, why don't you take her on a date? And so that's what started the restoration process. So he asked me then if we could just go out, hang out as friends. And we spent that time like really truly becoming friends again and learning, how to love each other and respect each other as friends first. And when we heard the okay from God that he was restoring our marriage through several people, we had people of wisdom, trusted prophets and pastors that came and confirmed, and then we went to counseling, and then we remarried.
Listen, what can God not do? I don't know. But here's what I would love for you, because there's a lot of single women, and every time I get a chance, I love when persons just encourage us, because I'm still unmarried. I've never been married, and you have spoken about, just how to position yourself. So I think part A of my question is, we always hear we should prepare for marriage and, to show up like a wife. But do you have any practical ways that I know that, going to therapy and, that going to therapy, getting to know yourself, but anything else like specifically that you could say, if you are teaching your daughters, about, showing up like that wife, what would you share with her? That's part A. And part B is, what would you say is your biggest takeaway during that restoration of your marriage process?
Well, the biggest thing, so when we talk about preparing, first of all, we have to know, we have to start with the promise. What is the promise? What do we desire, to have in a marriage, right? What kind of marriage do we desire to have? And really understanding, asking ourselves the real questions: what kind of marriage do we desire to have, and what does that look like on a daily basis? A lot of women just have a fairy tale or an idea of marriage, but they have not written the vision and made it plain. So they don't really know exactly what it is they're looking for. And so what happens is, because you haven't really identified what you're looking for, it is so easy for you to attract the counterfeit into your life, because you don't know. You just out here like, I just want a husband, right? What does that look like though? Right. And so first, again, starting with a promise, and then what is the, when it comes to preparation, what's the problem? Right? Really looking at what your issues are. A lot of women have trust issues, and they're calling them discerning of spirit, the gift of discerning of spirits, when they really have trust issues that are rooted in unhealed wounds. The other thing that I stated is about knowing what your purpose is, because before you try to become a wife to somebody, the first thing you need to do is be a woman first. Be the woman you need to become first. And so that again starts with you identifying, what your purpose is on this earth, because your purpose is beyond your ability to birth babies and bake biscuits. Those are blessings, and I thank God that we're able to do them, but your purpose is also beyond those things. And so the reason a lot of women want marriage so bad is not because they are trying to fulfill the purpose, because every marriage has a purpose. That's number one. But they haven't really found peace and fulfillment within themselves. So they're looking for someone to fill that void and to validate them. And so again, when you're talking about, okay, well, what does it look like? It looks like you doing the work. Who are you? So I would always start there. Who are you? So, because if you don't know who you are, you have no business trying to become anything to anyone else. Because what happens is, when you don't know who you are, that person can shape you into who they want you to be. And oftentimes when they are allowed to shape you into who they want you to be, you are not who God has created you to be.
Listen, ladies, I feel like that's a soak in the moment. Mic drop. Listen, I have nothing to say. Thank you. And any takeaway from, that restoration, what would you say is the biggest lesson from, just going through that process?
Say that again.
What's your biggest lesson from going through I married my dream man, I'm a Christian, I married the man that I prayed for, and then going through a divorce, and then God restore. Like, what would you say is your biggest lesson that you'd want to share with us?
My biggest lesson aligns with me, again, understanding my destiny, because who you connect to determines what you give birth to. And you can become one with someone who does not understand your assignment. And then you will be in a position where you're forced to choose between your mental or your marriage. And the biggest thing that I have learned in that process was to, and I don't want to say warn, but I share this wisdom with women that do not be so quick to walk down the aisle because he can carry you, over the threshold. Make sure that he can also cover you in your calling. Because if he does not know how to cover you in your calling, there will be a constant fight about you doing what God has told you to do, or you are over here sabotaging, who God has created you to be because of the person that you marry. I've coached many, many women, and there's a common pattern that I've seen with most women who do take the time to identify, who they are, but they don't really choose a mate that aligns with their destiny. And so they get stuck there. So, but that's another thing that I learned. And that's why it was so important for me to say, okay, even before we restore, I know you can carry me over the threshold. I know that, I can find safety in you, but can I find security in you? Security meaning that I know that I am in a place where I can be who God has created me to be, and I don't have to worry about my marriage being rocky or threatened, by that, because I know who I'm called to be and I know what I'm called to do. And if you can't see that and support that, then our marriage will be on a sinking ship. So that is so important. We got to go beyond the biceps. Okay. We got to get beyond the biceps. We got to go beyond the chemistry. You need to marry for compatibility as well.
Yes. And let's diverge from marriage, and God restore. How did you get into business? Like career-wise, what were you doing? You mentioned you went to college, so that means you were in the professional space. So how did you leave from, that journey? And then I know that you were, helping other women with marriage. So you were doing like wife coach kind of before. So tell us about that transition.
I tell people that God is just so strategic and how he is always preparing us for our destiny, even when we don't see it, right? And so I was actually working and I was fired. So I didn't choose entrepreneurship. It was a part of my destiny. I was terminated from my job at no fault of my own. And I was looking for another job. I had applied for hundreds of jobs and no one would hire. No one would even call me for an interview, which I knew that there was something wrong because I had too much experience not to get a call back. And so a friend of mine at the time, she said, hey, there's an apostle in town. It's always an apostle that shifts the trajectory of my life, like every single time. And she said, there's an apostle that is here from Chicago and we're having a Bible study. She said, I think you should come. So I went to the Bible study and he was getting ready to teach. And he said, I'm sorry, but I can't go on until I release this word to you. And he said to me, he said, you have been applying for job after job after job. And God says that you will not get hired because you will not work for anyone else for the rest of your life. He said, because you're going to build your own business. And at the time, I thought it was a lying prophet, a lying apostle. I was like, he lying. Because I don't know anything about business. I don't have anything to sell. I don't know the first thing about running a business, like nothing, zilch, zero. And so anywho, I went home. And like I said, when it's a word from God, you cannot dismiss it. You cannot. That thing will keep you up at night. It will follow you wherever you go. And so I told my husband about it. And my husband said, well, he said, if God said it, then God will confirm it. So basically he's like, just pray about it, see what God says. So I was praying to God and I was asking him about it and told him all the things I wasn't qualified to do. Like we always want to tell God what we're not qualified to do. He's like, I created you. I know what you're qualified to do. And so my yes qualified me for the call, not my experience, not my knowledge. It was my yes that qualified me for the call. And so he told me, he said, tell your story. And the story that he was referring to was a story about my husband and I. being restored, because no one knew except for our immediate family members. And it wasn't something I was ready to tell people. I was just like, I don't want people to know this. This is private. This is personal. So anywho, I posted about it on social media and my inbox blew up. People were just like, oh my God, how did it happen? Da, 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 da. Then I started getting speaking engagements. People wanted to hear about it. Then I created the course, and then I wrote the book. So I did it backwards. Most people do the book first, then the course. I created the course first, and then the book was in addition to the course. So the book just started selling like crazy. I mean, it was being sold all over the world. I wasn't promoting it. It was just out there. Like, it took off, boom. And as I was coaching these women, the thing that God really showed me was that they didn't know their purpose. And he said, they don't want marriage for the right reasons. And so you have to help them. So I started from relationship coaching. I started relationship and purpose coaching because I just believe they went hand in hand. And then they wanted to know, people tell you what they'll pay you for. Like, if we just listen, they'll tell you every time. And so the next thing I noticed was people kept coming to me and said, well, how do I turn my purpose into a business? How can I do what you did? So I started Purpose and Profit, and then Profit Strategist. As I'm building, I really learned what I was great at, and it's marketing. And so I started focusing on the marketing, built an academy. The academy went crazy. Like, people were signing up on the dot. They were begging me, like, we don't care how much it costs. And so it's just been an amazing journey. So I have traveled the world. I have done sold out tour stops. I have been on major platforms such as TED Talk, Steve Harvey, Thinkific, TubeBuddy, a lot of the major platforms out here. And it really was all because I said yes to the call. And I refuse to allow people to tell me that I need more experience, because I am experienced. My whole life is experience. And I teach you what I know, and that's all that I can do. But if it helped me to grow, it'll help you too. And so that is how I approach it.
Wow. Wow. I want you to go back to that yes, because a lot of women, I do feel like, there's this, I get why we're scared to say yes, because it's the unknown. But even after, hearing many testimonies, you are here on the podcast sharing what how your yes have transformed your life. I've shared on the podcast, my yes, but yet still, woman after woman still seem like, they can't say yes. So talk to us, as you would be coaching a woman right now that knows she's made for more, but still struggling with that total yes. So just kind of talk to us about that.
Really, it's about belief systems. And I take it back to that, because I don't care how good you are. If you don't believe it, you're not going to birth what you desire to birth in your life. And so what I say to the woman is that you have to trust God's yes over man's no, because someone somewhere is always going to tell you that you don't have what it takes. Someone somewhere is always going to tell you that you need more of this or more of that, but you really just need a yes from God. And you have to understand that when God is calling you to do something, he's trying to show you what's in you, because a part of you don't see it. So if God is telling me to do this huge assignment, I get excited about that, because I'm like, man, he sees something great in me that I've yet to see myself, right? And so that yes is going to really start the domino effect of success. It really takes a yes. It doesn't, if he said write a book, he doesn't need you to figure out how to market it. He just needs you to write the book, right? So I think one of the other things is that I teach women and my clients, I'm like, have you taken the first step? Because what happens is when he gives us this vision, we try to figure out all of the steps first before we make a move. When he's saying, if you take the first step, I will tell you what to do next. So just say yes, because everything that you've been praying for is on the other side of your yes. If you needed more, if you needed to go to school more, he will tell you all those things. But you already have what you need to get started. That's your yes. He'll give you what you need to finish it. That's in your obedience.
Yes. And because you were a purpose coach for so long, and you I do feel like a lot of women, as you said, when it comes on to that purpose piece, probably somebody that's listening is saying, hey, Shamieka, I hear what you're saying, but I've been praying to the Lord about my purpose so long, and I still don't know what my purpose is. I don't even know what God has called me to do. Even recently, a friend of mine was saying, hey, we keep hearing that we should know our purpose before we get married. So since I don't really know totally what my purpose look like, it means I shouldn't get married. So, I mean, I feel like I would want you to share a little bit about, that purpose story for you, and what would you say to women that feels like, hey, I just don't know why I'm here, but they are saved, sanctified, and praying and all of that.
Okay, so here's the thing that I always challenge people when they say, I've been praying, I've been praying, I've been praying. Yes, but do you believe? Because it takes faith to pray. It takes faith for you to pray to a person. That means that you have to first believe them and believe in them. So there's two different things. You can believe in God all day and still not believe God to do it for you. And so, number one, when people say, well, I've been praying, I say, has he ever answered you? Right? Because if he's ever answered you, then you should know his voice. And if you can't hear his voice, then that means that there is a fear or a barrier that's blocking you, because he still speaks. He's still the same God today, yesterday, and forevermore. Right? And he says, when you pray, believe and you will receive. What's missing is you're praying, but do you believe? Because if you don't believe, then you get stuck. You're in a state of confusion. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not saying to women, don't get married if you don't know your purpose. I'm saying to women that if you don't know your purpose, you can attract someone who can detour you from your destiny. That's what I'm saying. So it is very important for you to take the time to uncover your purpose. I don't teach people to find their purpose, because your purpose was never lost. It was never lost. So you don't need to find it. Your purpose needs to be uncovered by the experiences that you've gone through in life, the belief systems that have suppressed the reality of who you're called to be, the lies that people have spoken over your life that have caused you to limit yourself in your own capacity. You don't need to find your purpose. It's already there. It was there because God said he knew you before he formed you in your mother's womb. And so he does not create you and then try to figure out what to do with you. You get what I'm saying? He created you with purpose in mind. There's something on this earth that you're supposed to do. So uncover your purpose. And so I actually have a course that's called Uncover Your Purpose. I don't sell it anymore, but it's a 7-step process that I actually take clients, through so that they can uncover their purpose. And the first thing is, number one, is you want to start thinking about your gifts and your talents, the skills that you have. What are you already good at? Because we have a mandate, and then we have the method. The mandate is the assignment that God has given us in the earth. The method is the skills, the talents, the gifts. That's how we're able to do these things. That's why we have different skills, different talents. And some of them are going to be more prominent in certain seasons, of our lives, depending on what the assignment is. So what are your gifts and what are your skills? Do you know that? Right? There are things that you do effortlessly that people come to you for all of the time. Every time there's a family. So for example, if every time the family reunion is coming up, they call you because they want you to be the one who plans it, it's because you have great leadership and organizational skills. They know that you're going to be able to organize it in a way and get things done. They know that you are resourceful, right? So looking at what people are consistently coming to you for is one way. And then thinking like a kid again. Our purpose was already in us. We were already on the path of being who we were called to be as children until somebody came along and told us that we couldn't do it. We were already on that journey. I remember standing in front of the television, watching Martin. And when he said, this face belongs on the tizoo, when he was like, his face belongs on TV, it was in that moment that I knew my face was going to be on television. I knew it, and nobody had ever told me that before. But what happened is when I shared it with a friend, they were just like, how? What you going to be doing on TV? So it dampened the desire and it detoured me from pursuing purpose. I'm a mouthpiece for God, and I'm supposed to impact millions of lives, right? So that path was there. And then discovering like your uniqueness. A lot of people are so stuck uncovering their purpose because they don't take the time to really own who they are as an individual. The part of them that was rejected, the unique part, the authentic, when it was rejected, they shut it down because somebody made them feel bad in the moment. But that's the true essence of who you are. And you really want people to reject you so you won't get connected to people who don't value who you are. So it's all about perception. You got to change your perception about rejection. And then start thinking about, what is your why? When you find out the things that you're passionate about, why are you so passionate about that? So for example, for me, I am passionate about seeing women whole. I am passionate about seeing people walk in their authenticity because I understand that authenticity activates acceleration. I understand that a whole woman can do so much more and help so many more women than a woman that's still in that place of brokenness because she'll be stuck and not really be able to get the tools that are needed to help women get out, right? I'm passionate about these things because I've been there. I was the one that people said, you can't talk like that. You can't be using hood language in a public platform. You got to keep it corporate. No, I don't. Because I can keep it corporate when I'm in a corporate setting. You get what I'm saying? So again, uncovering your purpose is a journey and you're continuously evolving every step of the way. So stop making this your final destination. Allow the evolution process to continue.
Yes. Listen, I hope that you guys took out your journals and your pen and just been taking notes. Because you are in our class, like you are in our class, like you literally got some steps. And I love that she said it's not about discovering purpose, because I keep saying, listen, it's not this one destination. Oh, I know what my purpose is. Because Dr. Dean could have said, oh, you know what? My purpose is just to help women with relationships. But she would have robbed herself from helping other women with purpose, helping women build successful businesses now. Like if she had just felt like, oh, this is this one thing, but as she evolves, she's able to now help other women to evolve in that process. And I'm just so appreciative of, just your obedience to just sharing that. So, Dr. Dean, I want to ask you what we do 5 questions in 5 minutes. You have a minute to answer each question, right?
Okay.
And I just want you to share the first thing that comes to your mind. Just go ahead and hit it. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You mentioned, just you're being just for rejected and abandoned by your dad. How have you dealt with that daddy wound?
To be completely transparent, I had another level of revelation just recently about the father wound. I forgave my father years ago, and 2 years after I forgave him, he passed away. I forgave my father because I didn't want to be angry anymore. I wanted to be free. And I also forgave him because I didn't want to rob my children of the possibility of having a relationship with their grandfather. Regardless of what I had, I wanted better for my children. And so I wrote my dad a letter. Didn't even know. I wrote him a letter. He read the letter. He cried like a baby, and God restored our relationship that day. But the thing about a father wound is that sometimes you don't understand the depth of the damage that it causes. But as you mature in your relationship with God, he will reveal to you that next level of damage so that you can deal with it. So I'm at a place now where I'm having to learn how to allow God to be my father and not just my provider, because I correlated the relationship between my biological father and my relationship with God. And so there's another level to it. I needed to know God as my father, whom I can trust in every area of my life. So there's a journey to forgiveness. There is a pathway to forgiveness. And sometimes as you forgive, then God will release to you the next areas that need to be healed from that thing that happened.
Oh, wow, love that. So you are a teen mom. A lot of teens listen our podcast, talk to us about, talk to a teen, teen girl that feeling misunderstood, feeling, probably depressed, like, just kind of feel like, where does she fit in the world? Just talk to her. I want you to talk to a teen girl right now.
Understand that that is a choice you made at that time based on the information that was available to you. That decision does not determine that your destiny is now destroyed unless you allow it to. Your story is still being written. And so, even if you didn't like how it began, you have the choice to write a different ending. And that is by choosing not to be, not to stay in that place of what you look at as failure, but allow that to fortify and fuel you to create a better future. You are worthy. You are beautiful. You are amazing. You are talented. You are gifted, and you can do anything and everything that God has purposed and created you to do.
Yes. Number 3, you mentioned being raped. And one of the things that a lot of women struggle with, whether it be raped or sexual molestation or even physical abuse, is shame. How do you deal with, how did you get over now you are able to share these things without feeling embarrassed or without feeling shame? So how do you deal with shame, or embarrassment based on, something that have happened to you?
Mm-hmm. One of the things I take clients through an actual activation process. And I take them this process because most rape victims, the reason they are still bound by shame is because their bodies responded when their hearts and minds didn't want to. And so what I take them through a process is to really vocalize that 4 words, it's not my fault, so that they can take their power back and come out of their place of shame. Because even if our body is created to respond to things that arouse us. Even if we don't want it to, that's our body. Our body has a mind of its own technically. And so if we found any pleasure in that, or if we were blamed for it in any capacity, then that's where that seed of shame and guilt is planted. But you can take back your power by acknowledging and vocalizing that it's not my fault, because it's not. It doesn't matter what you had on. It doesn't matter if you were at the wrong place at the wrong time. It doesn't matter if you did not desire it and did not ask them for it. If you did not ask them for it, it is not your fault. So release yourself from the guilt of that.
Amen. Amen. Number 4, you mentioned, just starting the business. It wasn't something you desired. It wasn't something that you were even thinking about, but, you were kind of just led into that. Any tips for persons who probably desire to start a business, or what are your thoughts, so that beginning process, any tips or suggestion for them?
I would say this, if you have a story to tell, you have a product to sell. So that's how I have birthed every product or service in my business. It all starts with the story. When I birthed relationship coaching, it was about the story of my husband and I divorcing and remarrying. When I birthed purpose coaching, it was about understanding that at the beginning process of my marriage, I didn't know my purpose either. So that's a part of the story. Me being fired from my job is how my business got started in the first place, right? It all starts from a story. So there are parts of our stories, things that happen that put us in a position to create something. And again, if you have a story to tell, you have a product to sell. So start with your story.
Powerful, that gem. I think the final question I would ask, what book would you say, boy, or probably 1 or 2 books you say is a must read for a woman of faith that is trying to grow, professionally, or she's trying to grow, not necessarily a spiritual book, but it's something that any book that you say, boy, I need women of faith to read.
That's a good question. Let me see, because I'm a book lover, so I have plenty of books. I'm trying to think of what my favorite would be for that woman, though. Believe Bigger by Marshawn Evans Daniels is a powerful book helping you to really understand your purpose and how to really ask God for more and being able to live the life that you desire. And I say not the life you think you deserve. So that's one. If you need mindset beliefs broken about money and growing your business professionally, I would say Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It is one of my all-time favorite books ever. It changed everything for me. So those two I would highly, highly recommend you read.
Nice. And just to squeeze this one, because one of the things that one of your message is always around your belief system and believing, right? Mm-hmm. What's one thing that we can do to like daily, help to level up our mindset?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things is that most of the belief systems that we struggle with are not our conscious mind, right? So we will say our affirmations or we'll declare what God has decreed. We'll say all these nice things, but it is our subconscious mind that is the one that needs to be tamed the most. And so with that, you have to change your belief system. You need a new system. You need a new system. And that system requires you to create different daily habits that align with where you want to go and getting access to information that is going to help you grow. So one of the things that I started to do differently, I have a whole routine, but one of the things that I started to do differently on the way to work, I used to listen to the radio every morning. What I started doing was I started listening to an audiobook or some kind of message that specifically feeds my mind. That's it, right? And then once you get this information, where people miss it is they don't implement it, or they implement for a week and then they stop. So with that, you need to make sure that you are implementing what you're learning and keeping these things at the forefront. Keep your vision for your life at the forefront so that you can see it every day. One of the things that I just recently did, I created folders on my phone, on my iPhone, and I named all of my folders as decrees that I say over my life. So every day when I look at my phone before I'm going in here, because I got to go on this phone to pull up an app, right? So when I go on this phone to pull up an app, hold on, I'm trying to show you my screen. You see what's on there? It's all of my decrees. I am experienced. I am international. So I'm feeding my mind consistently. And your mind, your subconscious mind is affected the most when you just wake up in the morning, like in that sleep state or pre-sleep state. And when you get ready to go to bed because your mind is more relaxed, that's when you need to start feeding your mind the most in those moments. And you will begin to see a difference about what you're speaking, because language is a locator and it will locate you. And it will also lead everything to you that you're telling it to, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent.
Yes. So I feel like you have just school us the whole day. And so much like we can unpack it, what he's saying. And I would definitely need to re-listen this and kind of, but tell us how our listeners can work with you, how we can connect with you. What is it that you're working on that we can, tap into, that we too can kind of elevate to that place of purpose and profitability, right? So, because, being broke is not the way up right now. A woman of faith, we're not about that being broke life, right? So tell us how we can be productive, purposeful, and profitable by working with you. How can we do that?
Sure, absolutely. So you can go to my website, shamiekadean.com. You can email me there. And you can also apply. I'm also updating. My website is being rebranded right now, is being created. So, but there's still information where you can contact me directly. So real quick about what I do, there are two main components to what I do. So it's market like a mogul. I teach everyday entrepreneurs how to market like a mogul so that they can make more money in less time without the hustle and without the grind. And then I also teach service-based women entrepreneurs how to create scalable solutions and signature systems so that they too can expand their expertise, but creating their business, building their business around their life and not their life around their business. So I show them how to automate 90% of their profit so that they only have to work 10% of the time. So the kind of people that I work with accountants, I work with boutique owners, I work with pageant winners, credit specialists. As long as you're in the service-based industry or you want to pivot into the service-based entrepreneur space, then I am the one that can help you do that.
Yes. And listen, guys, definitely go and check. I just went and bought a book on on Kindle because I'm about to, that positioning to be that wife. I'm all about that right now. So definitely go and check out her books, check her, follow on Instagram and Facebook. Definitely I think my biggest takeaway, of course, we always hear about our mindset, this our mindset, that our mindset, but there's like it just more than ever realizing how your mindset have really, just shaped your life. And in order for you to become the woman that God has called you to be, in order for you to become the person that God has called you to be, challenging that beliefs mindset. And another thing that she mentioned is, the mentoring, getting the help, the mentors, investing in the mentors. I always say the mentor is a cheat code, right? She, when I think she said she always have a coach working with, to help her to accelerate her success. Nobody's about this long life of trying to spend the whole day on the YouTube trying to figure this out, but definitely do that. So Dr. Dean, I want to thank you again for, just coming on the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. We're looking forward to the amazing things that God is doing in and through you, and just, what is to come. And I'm looking forward to joining one of these masterminds coming very, very soon. God bless you.
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me. Again, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. And I pray that, those who watch it will be inspired and, compelled to move forward in their purpose and their destiny, and not allowing their circumstances to stop them. So I'm truly grateful and I appreciate you.
All right. So guys, again, thank you for listening to that amazing episode with Dr. Shamieka Dean. Listen, this episode of the Diary of a Jesus Girl was brought to you by my company, Daylight Publishers, right? Daylight Publishers is a faith-based publishing and consultancy company that is passionate about helping aspiring authors and industry experts to write, publish, market, and monetize their books. Listen, if you have a story, if you have a message, if you have something that you want to put in our book, definitely visit our website, www.daylightpublishers.com. Reach out to me, Crystal Day, the founder, and just let us know how we can help you to write the book, or we can help you to publish the book, or we can help you to market that book and monetize that book. Also, listen, Dr. Dean, one of the major things she has spoken about, right, is that self-doubt that keeps us out from walking into our God-given purpose. And that's why I've written the book, Dear Insecurity, A Woman's Guide to Releasing Self-Doubt and Walking in Your God-Given Gifts. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, please go and get your copy. And if you have gotten a copy, please leave a review on Amazon or Kindle, just to let people know how that book has really blessed and impacted your lives. And again, my new book, Blessed, Booked, and Boneless, is coming soon. More information will come out soon. God bless you. I will see you next week for another amazing episode of the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. We might have a guest. It might be a solo. We don't know what's up for next week, but all I'm asking you to join me for another amazing episode of the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. God bless you. I love you, and God loves you more.
Diary of a Jesus Girl. Jesus Girl. Hey, it's the Diary of a Jesus Girl.